Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Real Estate Showdown like no other. This is Price to Sell Wars.
It's called insanity.
Matt Campoli working on the camera, guys.
Final whistle.
We're done.
That's it?
Who won?
Like this. Like this. Like this.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Real Estate Showdown like no other. This is Price to Sell Wars. And I'm your host, Matthew Campoli. Get ready to witness a clash of titans in the property investment arena. In one corner, we have that dynamic and agile short-term rental investor. And in the other corner, the steadfast and the unyielding long-term rental investor. It's time for the rental rumble, short-term versus long-term. Welcome, my
Let's
friends.
go.
Thank you.
We're going to start off in the blue corner. Actually, before we start, guys, this is sponsored by Unicity. I'm really hyper right now because of this, in a very clean way. So,
For the record, I
thank
never
you,
took that. For the record, I never touched that thing.
we'll debate about that later. So, in the blue corner today, in the blue corner, representing short-term rentals, we have Kristiyan Todorov. And in the red corner, hope you like the color red, we have Sahil Jaggi. Gentlemen, please go ahead and introduce yourselves and your portfolios. We'll start with the blue corner.
Awesome. I've been in real estate. I've been doing real estate lending for about 14 years. Investing since I was 23. So what is that? 9 years now. About 5-6 years ago, randomly stumbled upon Airbnb. I was like, you know what? Let me try it. Somebody told me it makes a lot of money. They were right. And never looked back since then. Between lending and personal investments, it's been about 14 years.
Amazing. How many Airbnbs you got?
I have 7 active, and there is about 4 that are going live in the next 3 months.
Wow.
And then there is another about 10 going in the next year and a half.
And you might have seen Kristiyan battle that out on, was it CBC?
CBC. It was an unfair battle, but it was already premeditated for them. But
We won't get into the big media here. And Sahil, in the red corner, tell us about yourself.
Also 14 years, started in 2010. I have a portfolio of 25 million, 17 houses, all of them long-term rental, 34 doors. So each unit has like double doors. I've started with one house, and just basically through equity growth and keeping my LTVs low, I was able to like multiply through joint ventures and myself.
Incredible. Well, you're both two giants in the respected fields.
Yeah.
So thank you for coming here.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
And in case you're wondering if you piss me off, I'm going to blow the whistle. Okay? That's why I'm a ref today.
Yeah.
So we're going to get into the rules of engagement. Number 1 is respectful interaction. Okay? So,
What kind of debate is respectful? I'm just joking.
and
okay,
powered by Unicity.
we're gonna drop the whole respect thing right now. We're gonna have rebuttal rounds.
Yeah.
So debaters will have designated rebuttal rounds to respond and counter each other's arguments. So just let each other speak, and then moderated time management. So I'll ensure equitable speaking time while maintaining the flow of debate. And again, if you break some rules, I'll throw a flag. All right.
Done.
And our ring girl is sick today, Dean. He's not sick. He's here. He's just scared. So I'll be the ring girl as well.
Nice.
All right. So round 1, we're going to talk about cash flow and income. Okay? The argument here is that short-term rentals offer higher potential cash flow due to fluctuating demand and pricing. And on the other hand, long-term rental offers stability and consistency of income. So we'll start with Kristiyan on the STR side. And we're going to rotate for a first, who goes first. But this round, we'll start with Kristiyan. So cash flow and income, short-term rentals. Let's talk about it.
Before we get into that, I want to say, does really long-term rentals offer stability? Tenant hasn't paid me in 12 months.
Oh.
So we'll leave that one for you after. But short-term rentals, cash flow is, I don't think it can be matched in any other real estate investment. And I think for obvious reasons, right? Like your high turnovers, furnished, everything paid for, utilities, TVs, all that stuff. So in terms of dollar on your investment, there's no comparison. I've done long-term rentals. I still have some long-term tenants that are not paying, and I have a lot of short-term stuff, right? With short-term, you got to be really careful of what and where you do, because a lot of people over the past couple of years just bought anything and just tossed it on the market saying Airbnb is going to make me a millionaire, right? And now they're belly up because if you're not a good operator or you're in a shitty area, you're not getting returns, right? So you got to make sure you do your diligence on the area, the attractions. What are you going after? Are you going after luxury? Are you going after traveling nurses and professionals? Depending on that, right? So the cash flow, I don't think it can be touched. Obviously, there is risks associated with short term as well. You're always got to be on top of it. People say it's a passive income. It's not really passive. You're always on the go. Even if you have virtual assistants, all that stuff, you still got to be there, right? You always got to worry. Next guess, competition. I'll give you an example. Whistler, which is a managed and regulated area, has over 4,000 short-term rentals, and the city is the size of my head, or the town, whatever it's even considered. They're not all legal Airbnbs, but the city's not doing anything about it. So now all this competition, you got to worry about, because now my prices on a $3 million house have to come down just to kind of get filled up, unless you're offering something extravagant or out of the ordinary, right? People like experiences nowadays. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like my take on that.
Okay. I can relate. My Florida house, over 800 listings. It's a good time right now. I forgot one thing, guys. D, can you card me? The ring girl's sick, but I forgot to do this part. Round one.
Ding, ding, ding.
I
They
need
usually wear nice
sparklers.
bikinis, like.
Yeah, well, I need sparklers like the bottle service girls. Okay. Sahil. Cash flow and income.
Look, like anything that you say that can attract higher income and will come with higher risk, right? And first of all, I'd like to also narrow down the conversation by saying that we're talking about Airbnbs and long-term rentals in Toronto, or are we talking about in all over the world? Because I think like in seasonal places and vacation places, the Airbnb dynamics is very different. We're talking about Toronto. So I guess the conversation when it comes to short-term rentals or versus long-term rentals in Toronto, and we're talking about income versus income and short-term rentals. So sure, yes, in certain areas, as Kristiyan mentioned, that if you pick the areas right and your locations are good, and I'm assuming by that you mean closer to the core, right? In some locations, or if you're in the cottages or some different areas, I'm sure short-term rentals can be lucrative in terms of cash income. But there's absolutely zero doubt that there is stability in the long term. And as you're saying, your long-term tenant hasn't paid in 12 months. First of all, 12 months is a long time for you to allow him not to pay. There is one-sidedness in terms of our laws of LTB, but as far as I understand, if a short-term tenant also just decides to be like, all right, you know what, I'm not gonna leave, I'm gonna stay, LTB rules still apply. And that's the catch. Your risk is higher because you have higher risk of vacancy. And number two, you have higher risk of the same exact risk that occurs in long-term rentals, which is if a person decides to not leave your unit, you're bound by the exact same laws of the landlord and tenant board to kick that person out. So there is more stability, and over the past 14 years, like yes, I've gone through different instances in which, you know, I've had difficult tenants, and to help, like it's difficult to get them out if you choose the wrong person, and it really comes down to like your accuracy and ability to eliminate that, for that to happen by choosing the tenant right.
I'm going to sidebar you a second.
Yeah.
We're going to stick to cash flow and income.
Okay. So it's cash flow, and I was just rebutting to like what he was.
We have rebuttal rounds.
So cash flow, yes, short-term rentals can offer it higher, but depending on the area and depending on the purchase price and depending on the amount of loan you have on your long-term rental, I think long-term rental stability-wise is much better and can also over time produce very good stable income in a very passive way.
Okay. Now you guys can rebuttal. So it's like a free flow.
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. Long-term tenancy, let's say Oakville Bungalow.
Yeah.
Bought, I don't know, 5 years ago, $1 million, 200,000 down.
Yeah.
Rent, 2,700 if that.
If you don't convert it into a duplex, there's maximum ways of making that bungalow. Like
Yeah.
there's better uses of a bungalow, especially if you're buying bungalows without a separate entrance, then no. But I don't buy bungalows without a separate entrance. You buy a bungalow to convert it into a duplex, which is its maximum use, potentially a garden use, that's 3 units.
So correct.
Potentially
now, I guess-
4,500,
I guess
yeah.
here the question is, what is the purpose of the buying, right? We bought that to tear it down eventually and build.
Excellent question, yeah.
So now I didn't buy for long term. So it turned into long-term. It's 5 years that I haven't
Yeah.
had a chance to build yet because it's been so busy. But if I'm sitting there on $2,700 a month, even 5 years ago, the mortgage alone on 20% down was $4K without property taxes and utilities.
Okay. On an
Or
$800,000
forget the
loan.
utilities, they'll pay that on $800,000 mortgage, right?
Right.
5 years ago,
Right,
rates
right.
were 3.99.
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
So now, right off the bat, I'm bleeding what, $1,200-$1,300 a month just without property taxes.
Right.
Right. Now on Airbnb, summers I'm getting $8,000-$9,000 a month. Winters, which again are pretty, I would say about 80-90%
So
occupancy.
what are you averaging in terms of your income through the year? What do you come down to on a bungalow of $1 million in Oakville? What can you Airbnb it for it and then get as your net, or is it get as your gross rent for the year?
So
What's your annual gross rent
summer-
compared to long-term rent?
So summers, let's call it 8,000 a
Okay.
month. So what, 4 months?
Okay.
And then on winters, I would say about 5K.
5K. Okay, so much higher than, again, rentals have gone up. If you're taking market rent, I think the fair comparison is 3,500 versus 8 and 5K. You just said that you're not developed this bungalow because you're a very busy person,
Yeah.
right? Is your time worth anything to you?
Is my time worth anything?
Like people say return on investment, but I say return on time also. Is your time worth anything to you? And if so, how much is your time worth?
It's a tough question.
Okay, so coming
Very
back to the
philosophical here.
time,
Yeah.
coming back to the time, how much time do you spend on turning over 8K a month versus I spend 0 time on my long-term rental, maybe once in a while, which is, again, if you have a proper infrastructure, you can turn over that very easily, right? How much stability and how much time do you spend on turning over clients? It's almost like running a hotel, right? So my question to you is, if income is all that matters to you and time does not, why don't you open a gas station?
Because we're all going electric.
Yeah.
But no, I feel what you're saying.
If you're running it as a business, right, because it's not passive, it is active.
Correct.
Then why not a gas station versus an Airbnb?
Because gas stations don't appreciate. The bungalow just got appraised today at $2 million. In
Bungalow is a
today's-
very okay. So bungalow is my literally what I do, right?
Yeah.
70 out of 17 properties, 15 of them are bungalows.
Okay.
So I first of all love the fact that you bought a bungalow. Like it's perfect because you have mitigated some level of risk in terms of like no matter what you're doing with that bungalow, short term or long term, equity appreciation is there.
Correct.
Right? But most people who are purchasing Airbnbs, and I would say 90% of people who are purchasing Airbnbs are purchasing condos or purchasing townhouses or they're purchasing bungalows because very few people, I think, out of all asset classes are purchasing bungalows to turn into Airbnbs. Am I right?
I have to agree. Yeah.
Right.
And again, like I said, that bungalow was not purchased for an Airbnb purpose. But when I purchased it, I said this was a good lot that I want to eventually build on, and I'm not going to bleed for even a year.
So
2 years.
I think what Matt's the conversation is short term versus long term. What's better? So I think it's better to take an example what most people are buying as an
Correct.
Airbnb, which is a condo, right? So question, and then equity appreciation is gone because equity appreciation, regardless of what asset you bought, is a very like for example, if I'm buying a bungalow, you're buying a bungalow, we're using it for different uses in terms of what it rents for. Regardless is there in terms of land appreciation.
Correct.
Right. So question for you back. If your time is worth something to you, and if you bought a condo and you're doing a lot of work for it, as you said, it's not easy, it's not passive, your words, not mine. What exactly are you doing with your time, spending so much time getting a person in, getting a person out, changing their bed sheets, making sure the furniture is not there, and wear and tear is much higher? Where is the stability and where is the return on your time?
So this is a little complicated, and I'll say why. Because again, my Airbnbs are all over the place, right? So I have them from cottages to Whistler
Which
to
means more time,
bungalow. So
yeah.
again, I'm just saying like it's kind of hard to differentiate because not all properties were bought for that purpose, but they're put on that purpose just because things got delayed on my end, right? So just to answer your question for the specifically for the Oakville bungalow, I don't spend much time on that specific one because
Okay.
in the city
So let's take a different one you do spend on.
of cottages, which are 2 hours away each way, right?
Right.
Harder to find people, harder to find workers, harder to find help out there. That's the biggest
so
challenge.
if you were to give somebody advice,
So I just want to chime in quick. What about property management?
good one.
I've been there, and they don't take care of your property. It doesn't matter what they say. You can get the best property management. They don't care to get you the maximum return that you can get on your house. They just want to get booked up as much as possible so they can get paid. Not only that, they don't vet the guests the way they're supposed to, which has gotten me in trouble because I had property management in the past, and that's why I'm speaking from personal experience. On the bungalow, we went to the director of bylaws for short-term rental in Oakville, thanks to my property management. And again, because they were just filling up, there was like stripper parties, there was live DJs. So again, not worth my headaches. And my neighbors being pissed off and me being on the radar now, it makes my life a lot more difficult than me spending the extra time. Because again, just like I go to the office to do anything, that is technically work, right? If I have to drive 2 hours.
He's making all the points for me. Like,
Can I chime in as a host? I'm just gonna chime in. I know it's not my place, but I have my Toronto Airbnb and I have property management, and it's like the most seamless thing in the world. I don't even own it.
May I ask you how much you pay them?
Probably
15%.
15%. And
Yeah.
what are your profit margins?
Really good. We did. We grossed 89,000 last year. We netted 27
Okay, so if you were to
with like super passive.
when you purchased this condo in Toronto, what
No
did you-
equity.
No. So all loan, all loan, right?
Yeah, we put 20% down, but we did appreciate it a little bit. It's not really like an appreciation plate condos. They're not.
So 15%, if it's not seamless, then you better fire those people, right? Because that 15% is a very high number.
And
Like
I've had
property ma-
experiences. We have anti-party software, noise aware.
Yeah.
Right. So my first experience with a guest was a 20-person party at these girls from Richmond Hill.
In
They
a
were twerking
condo?
on my rolls. Yeah, they were twerking on my walls.
That's a
20-person party, twerking on my walls, upside down footprints everywhere, tequila bottle smashed, threw it off the balcony, smoking weed.
Question is, did you join?
I wish I did. The concierge called me. Cops are coming. Like, sick. Let's go.
You're
Like I
making
tried
a
to
good
show
case
up.
for Airbnb, but
Yeah. But after that, we vetted everyone, 25 plus, and I haven't had any complaints since. Plus, the noise aware does a really good job, and I'm done now. Back to
Now,
you
the
guys.
15% is actually impossible to find in today's
It's true. It's
It's
20.
low, I
20,
assume.
20
Yeah,
is.
it's
I'm
20.
somebody's
grandfathered
doing
in.
so- it's
I'm
like
grandfathered
25
in.
minimum.
So to Christian's point, if you buy like, a restaurant and you get a manager to go and run it for you, the food's never going to taste the same, right? I do believe in that too. And all my long-term rentals are also managed through my office. The very essence is that if you're looking to run it like a business, which I think Airbnb is, and my argument here is very simple. Either you're looking to run a business and grow and make money, or you're looking to have something which is an investment of a passive income. So question is, what's a better investment? It's long-term rental because of its stability and less turnover. Simple, right? These stories that you're explaining to me, that, strippers and this guy broke the house and all this stuff. If you're a person who's looking to grow your investment portfolio and you're going to spend most of your time doing this kind of nonsense, I just don't understand how much time are you really putting into growth of your portfolio. We're talking about growing a portfolio, not doing a one-off case. And again, true essence of passive income comes from long-term rentals. True essence of maybe I want to run a business, and running a business through taking advantage of the leverage that real estate offers. At 90%, you can go and purchase a Toronto. By the way, no lender here will give you a loan if you tell them that it's going to be an Airbnb. That's another big flaw in Airbnb, right?
Throw that flag. It's a new thing now. They're starting to take actually Airbnb.
New thing now, show me which lender is doing it.
BMO, Equitable.
If you tell them that you're running it as an Airbnb, they're going to give you a loan?
Yeah.
Okay. When did that happen?
What's the same?
That's
What's the
about-
percent?
No, 80%.
Regular?
They just need
And what's the-
confirmation of
because
the-
I just don't understand as a credit department, and I deal with a lot of credit departments for even commercial and your mortgages. You understand that the risk of that is a lot more, because look at COVID, what happened, right? It's a very seasonal thing. How are they allowing Airbnbs to run with, like, how are you supposed to pay a mortgage if something was to happen or a government is to come and regulate and say, we're going to shut down Airbnbs, which, by the way, a lot of condos don't allow
Correct.
already. How is BMO and the credit department covering their risk?
Yeah, but how are they covering the risk? I would say there's more risk to long term.
Yeah.
If one tenant for that one house does not pay, then I'm really on the hook for the whole thing. Versus,
Ultimately, I think.
We're going to round 2 now.
Okay.
So we're going to touch on this topic anyways. Dean,
Just when
pardon
we're
me.
getting into it.
yeah, like you can't interrupt the.
I'm interrupting. Round 2, everybody. Guys, rule of engagement, okay? I don't know if you forgot. Moderated time management was one of them.
You know
I
what
will
you
ensure
should do?
equitable speaking time,
You should do
equitable
a
bank.
timer with one minute for each.
That's probably good.
That's a good suggestion. Round 2.
I think you should twerk.
Like those girls in your condo.
Yeah.
Round 3.
I actually tried. I replicated the footprints. It was like the
But
perfect.
listen, twerking's hard,
It
man.
was the perfect position.
My back's not gonna allow that shit.
All right, round 2. I am hyper thanks to Unicity. Thank you.
You feel it?
I do.
Oh, no way.
I
I do.
swear to you, it's not placebo effect.
Oh, buddy.
Round 2 is tenant management. So we're gonna get into that now.
So,
All right.
look, I'll start here if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, we're living in a.
I didn't say you can start yet.
Oh, sorry, man.
So yeah, let's start
So
with you.
bossy, man.
Sahil, let's start with you.
All
start
right.
with
So
you. Realtors
long-term
downtown.
tenants, like, look, we're living in a city where it's again, I've said this many times in a lot of my videos. We're living in a city where tenant laws are extremely one-sided and it's biased towards tenants, and our government is actually. I think this is very politically driven too, because obviously there's more people voting as tenants than landlords. So there is very little protection for landlords, right? But when you're talking about tenant management, and I think it all comes down to based on your experience and the amount of scrutiny that you can do, the amount of qualifications you can do for tenants when it comes to credit. Like I go to the extent of meeting my tenants, and I go to the extent of actually interviewing my tenants and sitting down with them. I think mitigating, and for somebody who's like a family and obviously purchasing properties that attract the right demographics for a long-term rental can truly mitigate that risk. Above and beyond that, yes, there's not that much protection for landlords, but my argument again is like for short-term tenants, you can get a crazy wild people that are going to wear and tear your property versus having a chance that your tenant turns into somebody who doesn't want to pay your rent. And that truly depends on your selection process.
Christian.
You just said what I said. Just like long-term tenancy, short-term tenancy, it depends on your selection process.
Right.
I host cottages, 16 to 20 people, which are massive groups. 3+ years of those cottages, I've had 1 or 2 parties. So again, comes back to selection.
Good point. I'll
correct.
give you that. Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you can go back to the previous round, but you said COVID was a one-sided thing for Airbnbs, but COVID is what really allowed me to skyrocket. In
How?
like,
But
I was
people
making,
weren't traveling.
yeah, but my properties were local attractions.
Gotcha.
So, and again, I heard this many times from friends, families, colleagues.
No, I'm just curious.
No,
Yeah,
absolutely. That's a good question
yeah.
because listen, people said the numbers you're getting on your cottages are because COVID. And I said, you know what? I let it get to my head. You're right. Absolutely, COVID. I was making $40,000 to $50,000 a month in the summers on each cottage. Now, COVID's gone. People are booking next year the same prices.
Right.
Sorry, I wouldn't say the same prices. I've dropped it by about 20%,
Right.
which is still ridiculous amounts of money, I would
Right.
say. So is it really COVID, or was it an untapped market that most people didn't see, right?
So let me ask you this: how were you able to scale? And I don't know if that's a different question as pivoting here. So
It is.
I'm scared of your yellow
Don't
ball
pivot.
there, so-
I'll throw it.
All right,
We're
sounds
sticking
good.
to
So
tenants.
that's it. That's,
Okay,
that's pretty
tenants.
much what I have for tenant management.
Now, my tenant management, what I like is, and you said it, there is no protection for me here. Doesn't matter what I do. And I have abilities being in the banking industry, knowing so many people in the finance industry. I can do the diligence to
Truly find out what
Correct.
this person's about. Okay,
like
gotcha.
fake bank statements, all the stuff.
Yeah.
I've seen it all. I can
Yeah.
verify
I do the
that, all
same
that
thing.
stuff.
I have somebody check the bank statement.
Now,
That's a good plan.
I can go and do that stuff. That's not an issue. But you still get screwed. Like my last tenants were phenomenal until they left. They left me with a $3,500 bill on a 700 square foot condo.
This is for Airbnb.
No.
Oh,
Long term.
Gotcha.
$3,000, $3,500
Right.
because they drilled every wall. They have not cleaned once in 2 years. The unit, it was disgusting. 2 guys living, I don't know how. $3,500 on top of me bleeding $1,500 a month for the 2 years.
So I guess the bottom line here is that no matter if it's short term or long term, your selection process has to be good in either or. And if you're a master of short term, you need to know how to select. You're a master of long term, you need to know how to select.
Correct.
That's your tenant management. Next
All right.
topic.
I have a question. If someone decides to stay in the unit beyond their booking
For
on Airbnb,
short term?
can the cops kick them out?
Yeah,
But they have to go through the eviction process.
Nope, there's no eviction process. That's not a long-term tenant. I've done this before. They threw a party. I called Airbnb. They canceled the reservation. Now they're trespassing my property. The next morning, I showed up with the police. They packed their shit and left.
So the police will actually assist you in
They're
kicking them
trespassing.
out.
Yep.
That's not an eviction process. That's a trespass.
Well, correct, but you're still getting the tenant out, regardless which way you call
No,
it.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Cops will assist you in kicking
Correct.
them out.
Now, if
not
the
limited
tenant,
to condos, any freehold property,
Any.
they will assist you. Okay.
now,
All right.
now,
I thought that doesn't apply.
if it's
I researched before coming here.
if it's 28 days plus, turns into a long-term,
I
long-term
see.
tenant.
So it's 28 days less than your.
Correct.
Okay, got it.
And
But
that's why I never book.
That's very crazy because like squatters are opposite. They don't even have the 28-day rule doesn't even apply to squatters. Squatters can just walk into a home and they're squatters and you have to evict them. So how is an Airbnb tenant different? Maybe because
Well,
You did sign
when
some
they
level
come
of
to
lease.
when they sign up with Airbnb, they abide by their regulations,
that's
right?
fantastic.
It's like, and that's why I like there is so much protection. If you vet your tenants, sure you get bad tenants, bad guests,
So
whatever.
most of your bookings are they longer than 28 days
No,
or shorter?
I will never do it. Even if somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I need the place for 3 months," I said, "Okay, book 28 days."
And then book it again.
And then book it again. I won't
Understand.
charge the cleaning fee, or I will charge the cleaning fee because it's been a month of no cleaning unless
Right.
you maintain it, and then I protect myself.
Understand.
Mm.
Right.
Smart. You want to tell your squatter story?
Of course. Love it. It's the best story that's ever happened
Tell
to
it
me.
Oh, you
quickly.
actually have
Mainly-
one.
Buddy, crazy story. So basically, I bought these 2 houses, essentially turning them into 4, severing these 2 lots. And this is not going in my favor of the long-term tenancy that I'm vouching for here, but sure, we'll tell you the squatter story. But let's turn this into completely why you shouldn't buy long-term tenants, but why not? So anyways, is buy these 2 houses that turn into 4 houses. Permits take a long time. I decided to get students to rent that property because I didn't want to spend too much money in the property while they had it. So students took that Humber College. I rented it to 5 students. One of the students invited a guest because apparently, he needs a place to crash. And he came inside, completely crazy, had his weapons and everything, kicked all the
Weapons?
Yes, he had weapons on him.
I saw that on the news or somewhere.
Yeah, that's my story.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
You're both on the news.
Yeah.
That's why you're here.
Yeah.
I did hear that.
That was my video.
Oh wow.
So anyway, so that tenant, like, essentially we had to, like, when I went to confront him, like, what exactly is going on? He's like, this is my house now. I'm not leaving. And everybody who's an existing tenant got kicked out. I called the cops, which is why I was questioning your cop story. And I said, look, this guy is clearly trespassing. He's a squatter. He's not on the lease. Cops said, this is the landlord and tenant matter. We're not going to help you. Call the landlord and tenant board. They're like, why aren't you calling the cops? So basically, they're just like, I'm like, okay, I don't want to get caught in the middle of all this. And essentially waited for him to leave and go get food or
What
something.
if he never left?
Huh?
Oh, to leave the house.
Just like, yeah, we were literally camping outside the house waiting for him to leave. And as soon as he did, we threw his shit out. We boarded the house and we cut off the utilities.
How long did it take?
The whole process was probably like 12 to 14 days. I got him out. I didn't want to wait, right? But if you ask me, was that 100% done according to like how a law allows you to? No, because law expects you to go and give an eviction notice.
Which
right?
takes forever.
Which takes forever. But squatter by definition is a person who's somebody who's not even on your lease. So that was a nightmare story that happened. And, but again, I think with experience, you adapt and you learn. And for me, it was more like you take me to court and I will deal with the consequences of long-term, landlord and tenant board if a judge actually deems that to be a landlord's mistake for doing so.
So
That's the squatter
my
side.
beef with all this is a lot more tenants are actually purposely abusing this now.
100%.
And you can't do anything. That's my actual problem here because listen, there's bad apples everywhere.
Yeah.
If it's 1 out of 5, it's,
I mean, look,
but like,
I don't think everyone is doing it. I still think there's less than 1 out of 10 person doing it. And I think a lot of that is happening depending on where you're buying the property, what kind of demographics you're attracting for this property. Bungalow in Oakville, like you said, depending on its location, I'm assuming
Southwest
it's a nice
Oakville,
location.
like,
Right. It's very less chance. And if you're attracting that family with 2 kids and the kids are going to schools, they don't want trouble. They want to continue with their stable lifestyle, right? So I think it truly does depend on your selection process.
correct.
But
The selection. So here's the thing, and again, I'm third generation immigrant. I came here. The reason why I got into real estate is I got put into the banking system young. Like literally, I didn't even want to be in a bank, but they're like, hey, you want a job? I'm like, okay, I was working at KFC. Let's take a job at TD. More money.
At KFC, but sure.
And I saw every successful person that came with, there was one lady, 150,000 on her NOAs back in the day. And I was like, what do you do? She's like, nothing, I'm a landlord. I'm like, okay. So I kept seeing more and more people. So
Nothing, MLS.
that's what she said. She's like, I don't work. I was like, I looked at her, I'm like, how are you making this much money not working? So you come to Canada and somehow you're like, I gotta buy real estate. That's the way to go. People will go leverage their houses.
Agreed.
They'll spend every single penny to buy the first rental property. And they're like, even though they might be negative or even breaking even, they're like, I bought an investment.
So to your point, how does someone scale in real estate doing Airbnb? Because how do you go around refinancing properties that are producing income through Airbnb? You can only do that in long-term rentals. I don't think valuations matter. If you're doing Airbnbs, you will not be able to refinance and scale.
We're going to get into that now. But before we get into round number 3 here, I want to show off your Monopoly chain. I think it's really cool. Show it to the camera.
Where's the camera?
It's right there. All right. Dean, card me.
That's what made me.
No, this is not. This is the same shit you did last time. I think you gotta turn around, man.
You've learned the steps already from your condo experience. Just do the moves.
Should I twerk with the...
I think so. I think that would be appropriate.
Dean, will the camera get me over here?
This is
Give me,
what
give me the sign.
like. If you truly want to like,
you want to make
know,
it exciting. You can't do the same
Yeah.
things over and over. Expect different results. That's
is
called
Matt-
insanity.
This is Matt Campoli twerking on the camera, guys. There's no way you're airing this episode, bro.
Oh, I am. All right. Round 3.
Oh, you get red really fast. Eh?
I was upside down.
For 2 seconds.
And this unicity is like firing me up right now. Round 3. We're going to get
I'm
into
telling you, it works.
property appreciation, ROI, and scalability.
Yeah.
All right. So now you guys can finally
I
get
can't
into
disclose my dirty secrets on camera.
You're
'cause
exposing
then
your
people
dirty
won't come to me.
secrets.
They'll just go to their bank and do them.
We're going to start with you, Kristiyan. Expose them.
Okay, scaling. How I scale is obviously I'm a little psychotic, and when I say by what I mean by that is, and my wife can attest to that, is every penny earned, every penny refinanced is going straight back to real estate,
Okay.
where I live overdraft to overdraft. I say it to everybody because I don't want to see money in the bank. It's gonna make
You live overdraft to
well.
overdraft.
It dips into the 500,000 whatever, but it like because I know money's coming in.
Okay.
But what I meant by that is I don't keep money in the bank.
Okay.
I'm a believer if you keep money in the bank, you get in the comfort zone, that you need to go out and hustle and earn more money, make new business thing, because then you get in the comfort zone. So,
Okay.
well, at least for me. So what happened is all the money that came from Airbnb, and like I said, the cottages, let's say 40,
You're
50,000,
reinvesting it.
just goes back into it,
Okay.
right? When I didn't have capital at the beginning, I started buying pre-construction. The reason why I started doing that is because, again, if there is a $20,000, $30,000 commission check that comes in, then that's my next deposit. And I'll go crazy where I'll buy this unit, I'll figure it out. I'll find the deposit, right? Because after a couple units, you're like, you get tapped out on personal cash. Then you start refinancing. Now, refinancing Airbnbs is very complex. You gotta have a significant amount of income to sustain it, like to sustain the properties without rental income, or have them in holding companies. Holding companies are a lot different than
Right.
Personal
yeah. You need
work.
2 years of average income of holding, and you
Correct.
probably end. Yeah. Okay.
So that's how I've been able to kind of scale it. And obviously being in the industry for 14 years now, 15 years, I know what lenders want to see. I know what they don't want to see. You know, like it's how you position the deal. But again, the main thing here is holding companies. And for you to start off with a holding company, you got to have a lot of personal income to be able to,
Correct. As a guarantor.
at the
yes.
beginning.
Yes.
So that's kind of how I've been able to scale it. But again, every penny that came in from commissions or Airbnb
Okay, so the
just
3
went back
points
up.
I got out of that is that open a holding company, hustle. You make a lot of money, put every dollar you earn back into the business, and you scale.
Yeah.
Okay, so which part of that is leverage? Like, how do you refinance without having any equity in a property that is earning Airbnb income, which is considered a speculative form of income for banks?
Well, I use my own personal income to
Coming from where?
from my financing.
Not
from-
Airbnb.
No, not Airbnb.
Okay, from doing your job.
Correct.
Okay, so you have a job, you use your income, and you continue. Still doesn't explain how you do refinance. Refinance, the essence of refinance is that you have loan to value of 80% somehow, or you buy a property for, let's say, $1 million. You put $100,000. Now the valuation of the appraisal comes back at 1.5. Your loan to value is, let's say, 65 or 50%, and you're refinancing it back to 80%,
Correct.
right? Regardless of the fact that your personal income can support that or not, the property needs to have equity
Correct.
to grow.
Of course.
The question is, how do you scale, right? How do you scale a business of Airbnb through leveraging real estate that has built equity, and of course, under the pretense that you also have a job and you're doing really well at it? How do you
Well,
do
I
that?
mean, the way you scale is, let's say you take $500,000 from or refinance.
No, but how do you get to the $500,000 of equity available to you?
Well, your property has to appreciate. You got to buy.
Okay,
you gotta
so
buy
you're
good.
buying a property that is also set for growth and appreciation.
Correct. So when I look at
Okay, so-
properties,
sorry, just so I'm getting the chain of
Yeah.
thought. So you are buying properties that are also poised towards appreciation. Okay.
100%.
So would you agree that out of the 4 asset classes, which are or freehold property, consisted of bungalows, 2-story houses, semi-detached townhouses, and condos, that freehold is most likely the most to appreciate?
100%.
Okay. Coming back to what are 90 to 95% of Airbnbs consist of?
To be honest,
Condos, right?
I don't even know because
Condos, I'll tell you, it is condos. I researched this. So how are 90 to 95% of people who are doing condos supposed to scale? And if your answer is that they should hustle and earn income, what if people who are just have a 9 to 5 and they want to get into investment of some sort and hustle on the side and start Airbnbs? I just don't see a way you can scale Airbnb business without having unlimited source of income through hustling, which I know you're doing really well. You're a smart guy. There's no way everybody can sustain a psychotic lifestyle like yourself.
correct.
So my question is, how does a person who's a non-psychotic person, stable person, family of 2, scale an Airbnb business versus a long-term rental, which allows you to buy properties under the right fundamentals, poised towards growth and appreciation by buying freehold properties, having a very stable loan to value, slowly build up and slowly reduce down to 65%. And that is why 90% of real estate investors are scaling and refinancing through doing sweat equity in long-term rentals.
So I'll give you a perfect example. Let's forget colleges and the hustle and bustle. Let's say one of your bungalows, the duplexes, you get, what would you say you get per month on rent upstairs?
I
downstairs?
usually about 4,000 to 5,000.
Okay,
so
combined?
2,000 and 3,000.
Okay.
Correct. I turn them into duplexes.
So I would say on Airbnb, you're probably close to double that.
Sure.
Now,
But
if
then on a bungalow, you're not in the central core, so I don't think you're earning on Airbnb far away from the city, which is most likely the case you're buying a
Well,
bungalow in,
I'm
right?
in-
like
I'm in
Etobicoke being
Oakville.
the closest.
I'm in Oakville and it's still
Oakville.
doing that.
So
I
Oakville,
would
you're
say
telling me a bungalow earns $8,000 a month?
in the summer,
That's
yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
amazing.
that's, I'm talking about, this is like garbage bungalow.
Wow.
I
I did
truly
not know
said
that.
it's
That's
original
impressive.
from the 1980s.
That's incredible. I didn't know
But
that.
again,
I don't know that $8,000 you can earn on a bungalow in Oakville, which again, poised for equity appreciation, and you have the best source of income coming from it.
correct. So that's why I'm so pro it. I believe in the 3 things. I don't do arbitrage. Like, sure, you can scale it so big and so quick, but you owe nothing.
It's
Like
true.
nothing. If the landlord decides to kick you out, if you, and I'm not sure, you know what arbitrage is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Give a quick example for the audience.
So arbitrage is where you go to Matt and say, "Hey, I want to rent your unit out, and with your permission, I'm going to put it on Airbnb." So you get a good rent.
A host has using other people's property as a
Yes.
must.
Correct.
I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Subleasing
Yeah.
on Airbnb.
Now I don't believe in that because I'm not doing any equity pay down or capital pay down on my property. I'm not getting the benefit from the appreciation, and obviously the cash flow is there. So you're like hitting one of the 3
Makes
main
sense.
points.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I believe in buying. Sure, it took me longer to scale to whatever, but I still listen. I think in the past 5 to 10 years, everybody that bought real estate made a lot of money and was able to refinance and take out because the property was just going
Agreed.
like ridiculous amounts, right?
Agreed.
So it's so much easier to scale now in today's market. It's going to take people a long time to scale. But back to my original point, I personally believe a properly run Airbnb on one of your duplexes, you'll be closer to 10,000 per month. Now, somebody that's earning a normal family that's earning 150,000, 200,000 a year between.
Can only afford to buy a condo.
Well, at that point, there's no scaling.
Right.
I guess I'm gonna chime in again, just because I can speak to the condo
Yeah,
experience.
please. No, I want to.
Mine had so I bought 2019. I have about 150 in there equity.
Right.
I renewed.
But you told them that you're going to do long-term rental, and you decided to do
100%,
short-term. The loan,
100%.
the lender.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we decided to do it. But yeah, we've appreciated it much slower. So 2019 to now, if I had bought freehold,
Correct.
I would definitely be up a lot more.
For sure. Yeah.
But there's still some equity in there to play with.
100%.
And then in the
2019
summer
to
months,
23
the summer months downtown, you're doing 12 to 15,000
Correct.
Amazing.
in 690 square feet.
I think it's a good short-term play.
Mhm.
I think it's a good gig in terms of like earning your income. But again, it's like you go to a coffee shop. Are you going for the vibe or are you going for the coffee? I think it's a lot of it comes down to preference,
Yeah.
right?
It
I don't
does.
think there's a right or wrong here. And I know for a fact people who know Airbnb game like Kristiyan are doing really well. But I truly believe that if you're looking for a passive investment of less speculation and having a little bit more infinite upside, which is that you're purchasing properties with good fundamentals, freehold properties, I think long-term rentals, and you're looking to scale properly without like, hey, I'm going to tell this guy, tell this lender we're doing it for long-term, but do it for short-term. There's more safety, there's less risk, there's more passiveness, which means that your time is more free to do other things. long-term rentals win.
So
Right?
let me ask
So-
you this then. Well, going back to the ordinary family, right? Let's say their tenant stops paying. And again, you're saying 12 months is too long for my tenant that hasn't paid. I've hired a lawyer, like a, what are they called? Anyways,
Paralegals,
Paralegal, that's
yeah.
exactly, yeah. We're binded by the board. That's just the time. We've waited 8-9 months for them to give us a
Okay,
court
can
date.
I ask
And
both of you a question? What happens
I'm
if...
just the host.
Yeah.
now he wants to be the host.
I just feel like you have a little bias towards Airbnb.
No, I just want to speak towards the condo.
Well,
'cause
Matt,
I have
hold on. Let me
experience.
ask
How
you
many
something.
Airbnbs do you have? And how many long-term tenants do you have?
Well, I only have 3 properties, but I have
And
2
you're-
Airbnbs.
I knew
then
the answer. That's why I asked you.
The third was going to be a long term, but I'm going to sell it.
So there you go. So anyway, let me ask a question to both of you. What happens tomorrow if the government deems Airbnb, puts more regulations on Airbnbs and just decides to ban Airbnbs, which has happened in a lot of countries? Look at Uber. Uber has been banned in multiple countries, right? And Airbnb model also like very similar. It's killing the hotel business. Conservatives coming back into power, there's a very good chance that they will shut down Airbnb in a lot of ways. So explain to me, what are you going to do then?
I don't think
What's your backup?
there will be Airbnb shutdown. They cannot shut down Airbnbs. They can put their bylaws.
They can, and legal laws can do anything. They decided to shut down foreign investors. You know how big of a deal that is? You stop an investor for coming into a country and saying you cannot buy
So
real
what
estate.
country has shut down Airbnbs right now? I don't know one.
I don't know which countries has shut it down, but Uber has been shut it down. And I feel like the model is very similar, no?
I wouldn't
People
say
deciding
so.
to rent their homes versus people deciding to like taking cars and
I
driving
feel
around.
Uber
I think regulations, condos have banned Airbnb.
correct,
Right.
and that's why I don't play around in downtown. It's a waste of my time.
That's you. That's you because you're smart. We're talking generally speaking.
Dumb
What does a
dumb
person
people like
do?
me.
What does a person do?
Well,
that
you're
who's
in a
bought a
allowed
condo
building.
and the condo corporation in their next annual meeting decides to shut down Airbnb.
Correct.
Can
So
happen.
you shouldn't be buying properties with that risk before I buy any, or
So don't buy condos at all.
not for Airbnb first. I would never do
So
it.
that's 90% of people out there. 'Cause
I would never
90%
do
of Airbnbs are condos
Unless-
in cities.
There's been changes recently. Some have added actually ICE condos recently partnered with Airbnb
Well, I mean the
yes,
news.
Yes, I know.
to
Yeah.
take 15% of gross earnings
That's smart, actually.
Well, that's
and Fort York.
I like that.
I
That's
feel
smart.
like that. Well, that
That's
does
smart.
that
For
does
condo corporation
nothing.
to come and say, okay, you want to do this? We want money too.
Yeah.
That's smart.
I don't think that's gonna help in any way their news that's coming from ICE condos. This more of a money grab,
Have
right?
you looked at how hotels are performing since Airbnbs have arrived? Like, is hotels jammed?
To be honest,
What has it done to the vacation and the hotel business?
I think so.
No, go ahead.
I'm the host.
No, you have one in Florida, so that's a perfect example.
we give you permission.
I was told that there's just a shortage in general of hotel units.
Therefore, Airbnb is filling the gap.
Yes.
Okay.
So, personally, when I travel anywhere, doesn't matter if it's with my wife or 4 or 5 people,
Okay.
I don't even look at hotels. I don't even think like
You always
not
drive.
trying to not look for hotels, but I'm like, let me check what's on Airbnb in the area. And then when I don't see anything good on Airbnb, I'm like I'll give you an example. When
It's
went to
your second
Miami,
choice. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I looked on Airbnb, it was garbage. Unless you're spending like $10,000 per night, but it was garbage. It was literally the studios with like tiles. I'm like, I'm not
Right.
staying here. So that's when we went to the hotel.
Makes sense.
But my first thought is like, I'm going to Airbnb, right? And I feel like a lot of the people, like since COVID hit, prefer to be in their own environment. Sure, it was a fad during COVID, cleanliness, this and that. And sure, you're taking a risk with Airbnbs where I don't have good cleaners and the place is
Yeah.
dirty.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But Airbnb covers you in that case. There's a lot more protection, a lot more guest protection and host protection. Because if my unit's garbage, guess what? The guest gets full refund, and I'm on the hook for an empty house. So I have to give 5 out of 5 performance for anything in the house. And even if small things such as if the internet is not working and it's not your fault, it's a shortage.
Right, right.
Airbnb refunds them 30% automatically.
The way I see it, again, I think I personally don't have this much time to manage all this, right? And I think any investor who's looking as a big picture to become, multiple properties, invest your infrastructure to set up, like, hey, I just want this as a passive income. Like today, for example, if I'm earning $20,000 to $25,000 a month coming from long-term rentals and my involvement in it is very little, and if I wanted to go get a property manager at 6% or hire a full-time, paying her like $40,000 salary to manage all my rentals, I think the game is a lot more easier as I grow.
So
right?
let me ask you this: to
Yeah.
earn them, is that net or gross income that you're referring to?
Net.
So how many properties and what loan to values of mortgages do you need to be to make that? Because that's a lot of money.
Very low. Loan to
Correct.
values have to be low.
Correct.
Right?
And
But,
This
but
is
again,
the last little exchange here, guys. Before I blow the whistle, it's the last little exchange.
And that exactly, there's no such people. You're an anomaly.
yes.
Like there's
Because you know why? Because I'm also like, it depends on what stage as an investor are you at. right?
Correct.
Like for me, like I'm actually trying to free up my time.
correct.
My goal was to, hey, I want to earn income and I want to maximize the hell out of every single square footage of real estate that I have, then maybe some of the properties I would start turning them into short-term rental. But I truly think that you should respect return on time. People miss this so much in their life. They think return on investment is the only thing that matter. I don't have 12 hours in a day. I want only 5.
We're going to take your 5 hours and we're going to move to round 4.
Done.
Dean, card me. This is the final round, my friends.
Oh, that's it?
That's
This is
it.
We're
Oh,
gonna
wow.
see what the judges score later on. No twerking for this one.
Yeah, we don't want you to turn red again.
Round 4 is just questions from the audience. So I'm going to just
Okay.
direct questions to you guys. You answer nice, short, and sweet.
What audience?
There's an audience.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they're actually in the cameras.
Nice.
Yeah, they exist in there. There's like 7 of them. All right. STR question. I think I'm trying to read this, and these came to me on Instagram. So, if all Airbnbs came to the market, I'm assuming for sale, will there be a crash?
Sorry. If
Or actually, I know what it means. If all Airbnbs came to the market, will there be a crash? Meaning like oversaturation, tons of inventory in Airbnb listings. Will there be a crash in the
the
Airbnb
normal
business?
person will say there is a crash, but the good operators will not. They've been saying there is an Airbnb crash and bust for 2 years now. Why am I still
good
making
answer.
money? Why are other people still making money? Because they take the Airbnb business as a true business and they run it like that, not a part-time, let me toss a house on. So no, there will not be a crash for the true operators of Airbnb.
Okay. Long-term question. True or false? It's not a question. It's true or false.
That's it.
Long-term tenants will be more consistent and considerate to your property than short-term rental
True.
tenants.
100%.
False.
All right.
How do you select?
I'll tell you how.
No, I
Well,
said
I'll
how-
tell you why
how-
I'm right.
how-
I don't know how you
how's your
select.
selection process is what determines whether or not,
We're going to get into that.
yeah. But again, there's more wear and tear on a property in short-term rentals, right? So that's why I have that logic.
But also people, if they damage anything, they're paying for it out of pocket.
True.
So
STR. Can you use STR income to qualify for a mortgage?
depends who you ask. But as of the last month, a lot of the lenders have come in and said if you have 2 years,
Well, his
proof-
wife is a mortgage agent. She's giving him approvals on like approvals after approvals.
If-
Doesn't matter what it's
if
for.
if you have actual proof of the income and it needs to be 2 years, so you need to be able to qualify first on your own, and then 2 years of thing, they will start using it now. And again, the banks and lenders are coming to realization saying, hey, there's a lot more of this going on. Listen, I think it's all BS where a bank's like, oh, you're gonna buy a rental property, you don't have a lease. Oh, let's do market rent. So let's just hypothetically speak and do an appraisal and say, oh, this house is going like that's what the area is going for, but you don't have a tenant. So that's an empty house that you're just buffing up the income to qualify the deal.
That's an appraisal, yes.
But again, an appraisal, you're like, you know what I mean? Like, so that's, I think is BS. The banks know what they're doing and they don't want to lose the business, right? So yes, you can use it now, but you need 2 years of history.
Okay.
Off Airbnb income.
Correct.
Understand.
Long term. Best way to vet tenants now with so many not paying and exercising their rights.
Look, the traditional 3 ways are income, credit, and your what's the third way? Income,
Okay.
credit,
References.
and the references, right? So I think the additional one that I've added to the equation is interviews. I think personal interviews. Also, I insert a clause now in my leases which says that the tenant, if they independently and they for example come and give you consent for reporting it to their credit, that if you don't pay rent, it will hurt their credit. I've started inserting that clause as a mandatory clause. And if they sign off on it, you can actually report. And you'll be surprised that if you use that clause later on to say, look, you signed this, I'm going to report this to credit, it's actually going to show up in your credit. Have a very, very strong legal team, draft a very good, strong contract. And again, there's still less protection from the system. I'm still not going to say that it's the safest. No matter what, anybody can turn against you and stop paying, and the system is not very protective. But add interviews to the equation, add bank checks to the equation. So I have some contacts in the banks that can make sure that they're not fraudulent and they have actual money, and extra deposits. Now, extra deposits by Ontario standard leases are still not allowed, but if they do it voluntarily, it is allowed. So I take extra deposits. I check with the bank to make sure that they actually have, no fraud, and I do interview processes, and I insert that clause for extra.
How do you
protection.
report it to the bureau?
So you just go ahead and message to Equifax. They've given you consent, which means that their credit can actually get better if you keep telling them that they are paying for rental income. Yeah.
Interesting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I learned
I
that
didn't know
from
that
a
either.
property management
That's
company
really
that I
good.
almost hired. Yeah.
That's really
Almost
good.
tired.
Thanks for that. I don't need you anymore.
STR. Do short-term rental properties promote higher resale values than regular properties? Case study to mention is ICE condos, as they had lost value, while 300 Front, my building, has maintained great value.
So I think Ice Condos is the one off. Just has horrible reputation. As a short-term
Agreed.
operator, I would never buy there.
Me either, yeah.
It doesn't matter. I wouldn't say they have higher value. The reason why is because most people have the stigma about Airbnb. So they would say, hey, there was an Airbnb house, it's destroyed. My Airbnb houses are better kept than my tenants. So I wouldn't say it has higher unless you're actually selling it with a business. Like, hey, this property made 400,000 last year
It's
or
an
whatever.
accurate answer. Yeah.
That's the only way you're gonna yield more
my
money.
opinion on that is that, if you're buying a property, I think, especially we're talking about freehold property or cottages, I think the sense of community is really lost with the neighborhoods. If you do Airbnb, a lot of the neighborhoods don't enjoy the process of their neighbors renting it to Airbnb. There's a lot of ruckus. There's a lot of different things. So my opinion is that it is a risk to its value, right? Because neighbors talk, and especially in an area where neighborhoods are very intimate. So there is a little bit lost sense of community and causing the valuations to come down.
A lot
for
of
sure.
Karens, is what you're saying.
Exactly.
Not
Now-
your
Just
wife.
can't escape them, man.
Now, my question there is, let's say in Oakville, in my neighborhood, I'm the only asshole. If somebody's coming to buy my house for them to live in as a family, why would it matter if it was an Airbnb and the sense of loss of the neighborhood, right? Now, if there's 5, 10 properties, that's a different story. But if there is a couple and somebody's coming to buy it as hey, that's my primary home, why would that lose value of?
Logically, no. It's just a risk to its value. I don't think I said
Again,
it's
it's
going
the
to lose
stigma.
value. It's a stigma, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well, this is the final whistle.
We're done.
That's it?
Who won?
That's it. So, I mean, so audience, you guys be the judge. Thank you guys for coming. This is an awesome little debate. This is the first. So, I mean, like, we're trial and error here. But, guys, drop your comments in wherever you're watching this, YouTube, Instagram, social media. Even if
Is
you're
this live?
No, it's not live.
Oh,
But
He
even
asks
if
after.
you're listening, just drop your comment somehow. Although it's
It can all be
impossible.
edited.
You'll figure it out. And let us know your thoughts. Which route do you lean with more or side with more? Long term, short term? And if you guys have anything you want to add in, throw it in the comments. But maybe we'll leave it off with, like, if, people want to reach out, ask some questions. Where can they find you guys?
At Mink Real Estate, Instagram. Simple and straight.
yeah, Instagram's a new business card. So it's Life of KT2. That's my Instagram. So
And I'm still wired, guys. Unicity.
I'm telling you, it's the real deal.
It's clearly the real deal. So- but
You're like a tomato, bro.
You'll see it on Matt's Instagram in 2 weeks.
I was clearly twerking on the couch. That'll tell you something. But thank you, everyone. This is Price to Sell Wars. I'm your referee, Matthew Campoli. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks for having us.
Boom. Thank you.
Like this.